everybody. My name is Tom.
Hi, Tom, and everyone. I'm Andrea.
And you are listening to The Other Castle.
The Other Castle.
Welcome back.
Welcome to our castle. It's better than the other one.
Yes.
But we are at the other one.
We are at the other one.
Depends on which yard you're in.
Right.
Don't trespass.
Okay.
Speaking of trespassing and weird shit.
Goodness gracious.
Goodness gracious indeed.
This week's episode.
Gee golly lollipop.
Just might give you...
The heebie-jeebies?
Very much the heebie-jeebies. This week's episode is Little Nightmares.
Creepy-ass little nightmares.
Strange little platforming puzzle game.
Yes.
And...
It's wild.
Goodness. I mean... Yeah, there's so much to talk about with this game because the story is bizarre.
Mm-hmm. The gameplay is beautiful, but really tricky.
And the story really plays out over multiple episodes after a while because, like, you get the first main story and then you get some prequel stuff going on with some of the DLC that comes in later.
And it's not even really prequel.
Yeah, it's like...
Concurrent,
but...
Parallel DLC?
Parallels, but some of it seems to take place a little... Like, yeah.
It starts at a different place, but it ends mid-full game. So there's a lot going on.
There's so much to talk about, and... I had one theory, like, as I'm watching the gameplay footage, and then as it developed, my theories kept changing.
Yeah.
And then by the end, I'm like, I have no idea what happened. And then I had to go back and, like, reevaluate everything, and then I have a completely different idea now as to what I did at the end of the game.
I feel like that's how you are with politics.
Okay. Yeah, I've changed my mind on a few things a few times.
There you go.
That's true.
So Little Nightmares is a game that was released on April 28th, 2017. So this is probably the newest game we've done. Oh, Far Cry was newer,
5,
but
yeah.
Second newest game we've done, and it was released on May 18th, 2018 for Switch. So it just came out on Switch.
Oh, okay. Well,
Very
welcome
cool
to the
stuff.
Game Switch.
Welcome. So PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch. Anything you got, you can play this game
All
on.
the platforms.
In ballpark, the game only takes about 4 to 5 hours to complete. If you do full completionist, it's about 5.5, maybe 6.
But a good solid speed run, you can do it in an hour.
Yes, there is a trophy for beating the game in under an hour with no deaths called Hard to the Core.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty rad.
And, like, because that's how we absorbed the game, was taking it through a 1 hour speed run. And watching people play it not on a speed run and just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Looks like it's the... We didn't play this game personally, but...
No. I've done a demo of it.
Oh, you did play the demo of it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've done a demo of it.
All right, cool. But it just looks frustrating, like, the amount of times you would have to die. Because
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, like, I was thinking very similar to Dragon's Lair.
Okay.
Where it just would have taken so many damn tries to
If you don't
figure
know.
out what you're doing.
Yeah, it's a lot of puzzles. I remember doing a demo of it at work. I had a fun job.
Yeah, I was going to say, at work. I'm...
As a part of a research thing for work. So
Right.
I played a little bit of it, and it is tricky, and it is very creepy once you start to get into it, and you're staring at your character, and you're staring at the background and the foreground, and there's a lot of stuff going on. But I played a little bit of that last year, closer to kind of when it came out, and I fell down the rabbit hole going, but what is this about? What is this shit? There's a gnome thing and a raincoat, and there's creepymans.
And there's these crazy chefs.
Yeah.
And there's a geisha.
There's a whole bunch of crazy shit, but my journey with the game is that I played a little bit of it, and I just fell down a rabbit hole of lore.
Okay.
And then I started watching tons of YouTube videos and theories and reading the Reddit page and things like that, just trying to figure out what the fuck the story is.
So you got way deeper into it than I ever did. So.
Oh yeah, I went elbow deep, sir. And it was
elbow
wild.
Deep. Oh
and
my
I've just
God.
kind of tracked it, so I don't even feel like I need to play it again, because I tried it, but now I know the story, so...
Right.
My whole thing is, like, I play games to unravel a story.
But now that you know the
No,
story.
I know it.
It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm not going to jump back
Like,
into it.
I get it.
It looks frustrating, but
it does
also
look frustrating.
rewarding at the same time.
I'm not patient, so
No.
that's tricky. When this debuted, it debuted at number 4 on the UK all-format sales chart, doing about 92,000 units in its first, like, when it debuted. So
Good for them.
pretty rad. And going into this, I want to let you know that the original title for this was Hunger.
Hunger, okay.
Yeah, which does
That makes
play in.
sense.
But here's why they changed it. They realized if you're trying to figure out more of this game, you're going to type in Hunger Game.
Oh, shit, really?
So
no way.
dead ass, the people behind it have gone on record being like, it was called Hunger. We had this whole theme of hunger. Obviously, we're going to talk about the hunger aspects of the game, but it was all about being called Hunger.
Right.
And then someone was like, you're a consumer. You want to learn more about this game. What do you type?
Hunger game.
And who do you see?
Katniss.
Yeah. Not Six, not the Maw, just Katniss.
You're looking at Jennifer Lawrence for far too long.
Yeah, so literally they had like one trailer out called Hunger.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I think part of this was also, this game was released by Bandai, so Bandai might have been like, guys.
Yeah.
Fucking try Googling it. It's not
God.
good. So yeah, Bandai published this, eventually after it was renamed Little Nightmares, and they were like, oh, that's a Googleable name. Good job.
Little Nightmares is a great name.
And it's super creepy and works very well in World with us.
No, I get why they were calling it Hunger. I like Little Nightmares better.
Yeah. And this is actually the first in-house project by Tarsier Studios.
Okay.
So it's a Swedish studio that have done a bunch of work on the Little Big Planet games.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Really?
This looked like a Little Big Planet game.
Really?
In a lot of ways.
I've never played those. I don't know anything about them.
Okay, yeah, no, this was very reminiscent of watching a Little Big Planet.
That's so funny.
So it's a very 2D platformer with a 3D world, which is really fascinating. But yeah, this was very reminiscent of a Little Big Planet.
That's so funny. Yeah, when I see it, I see the cover art of like the little like stitched up brown figure and like bright colors and like very bright and fun, and this is the opposite of bright and fun.
Well, now that you say was a Swedish studio, that actually makes a lot of sense because Rugrats was a Swedish style as well. That was done by a Swedish person.
Klasky Supo?
Supo. And so that's the very much of a Swedish style, is that kind of ugly look, like these kind of deformed faces.
Not pretty.
A little
creepy.
Yeah, everything's a little bit exaggerated. So that makes a lot of sense then.
Just a little disarming, so it's not exactly what you see in your head. It's just a little dramatized.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I didn't know that, but yeah, this is their first original title. They did a lot of this team, specifically like the writer, the director, the developer, the key core cast of this game, all did Little Big Planet 3 together. Okay. So then they broke out. They wanted to make something of their own, and they put this game together. And for a freshman title, it's going pretty well.
You had some pretty heavy hitters going into it, to be real.
Yeah, Little Big Planet, you're doing the third in the series. That one did gangbusters.
That one was really well
And they
done.
were like, y'all want to get weird with this?
Yeah, let's take this and get really strange.
As of July 2018, this game itself has 78,000 followers on Twitch. Just watching other people play the game.
Just to do that. Wow. Okay.
So...
I guess it is if it's a puzzle game, you can make it a very collaborative effort and having people help you try to figure out the puzzles.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
people
fun.
Being like, look out!
Yeah.
Scary Min's there.
Right. Okay.
So first title, I'm super impressed by it. They developed this all by themselves, and then Bandai came in to publish it and really put it across platforms, put some money behind the marketing. They did a big campaign to push it, especially since they kind of changed their name after first announcing it. Right. They had to be like, it's this one now.
No,
we realize this is difficult to Google.
This is that one.
Yeah. So that's kind of the background of this game, who made it, how it's doing. It's going off. If you haven't heard about this game, you haven't opened YouTube in
To be real, I hadn't heard about it till you brought it up.
Really?
Yeah.
At all?
That was the first time I'd seen or heard that game.
Oh, last year when I was in New York Comic-Con, I saw a woman and a man cosplaying. The girl was the little girl 6 in the big yellow raincoat, and the guy had these paper mache arms that were attached to her shoulders. Okay. So she'd walk 10 feet in front of him, and he'd waddle and be the blind janitor with the long arms.
The noodle arms.
I lost my mind. That was so good. I didn't realize you didn't know what that was.
No,
I think I sent it to you, being like, holy shit, and you're like, that's nice.
Yeah, no, I remember exactly you sending me that.
Oh.
And, I had no idea what I was looking at.
You're
I
like,
was
cool, spooky shit.
Great costumes, everybody.
Come home.
I honestly probably dismiss it as like an anime thing that I didn't know. Because there's so much obscure shit in an anime.
Not my fandom.
Right.
I get that. But yeah, this game's wild. As Tom mentioned, so a full game came out in last year, 2017, April, and kind of over the end of 17 and into early 18, 3 pieces of a DLC were also released called Secrets of the Maw. 3 episodes came out, and there's more content on the way.
There is still more coming?
Yes.
Goodness.
Yeah. So the DLC came out in July, November, and then February of this year. So kind of rolled out every few months. We just got the last bit of lore in February 2018 when that DLC wrapped. But in 2019, we have a TV show coming.
A TV show?
Yes.
On what? Like Freeform?
There's no network associated yet. But actually, let's play a game. Who do you think is directing the first episode?
Is this somebody that...
You know him.
I know who this person is.
And that's a hint. He's a dude.
Jay Chandrasekhar.
No.
Okay.
That would be super fucking weird.
My only guess.
That's your only guess?
That's my only guess.
Henry Selick.
Henry Selick from...
Nightmare Before Christmas.
From Nightmare Before Christmas.
James and the Giant Peach.
And they're doing stop motion?
I believe so.
Okay.
So...
That's an appropriate style for this.
I think so, because, like, I think everyone has Burton fatigue, but Henry Selick is also a visionary in the same vein.
Right.
You know? James and the Giant fucking Peach, like...
Coraline,
fuck me up. I fucking love Coraline.
No, I know you love Coraline.
Yeah. I got a signed copy of that once. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Who do you think are the big boy backers of this?
I don't know.
Okay, we just saw one of their movies in the last 2 months in theaters.
Taika Waititi.
No, but Taika Waititi and Henry Selick doing a project together would be so delightful to see all those little animated Hawaiian shirts.
And we haven't even seen a movie by Taika Waititi.
We didn't see that in theaters last few months.
Over a year.
Yeah. Just Thor Ragnarok, so I don't know where that came from.
Well, no, we had just recently watched his movie on the other one.
Yeah,
the
okay.
Vampire one.
In theaters, we saw this
in
this
theaters,
summer.
What have we seen? I don't know.
We haven't gone out that much.
Saw Avengers.
Yep.
So was it a Russo brother? Wait, really?
It is both of the Russo brothers backed this, got
Wait,
the rights.
for real?
Deadass.
Oh, okay.
Anthony and Joe got the rights to this to build out a series, and they got Henry Selick to sign on to direct the first episode.
Wow.
This is slated to come out in 2019. They have not said fucking anything. They haven't said if it's a continuation of 6 hitting land. This isn't Runaway Kids story. This isn't 6. This isn't the Geisha. Like, they just said they're fucking doing it.
All right. Well, I'm fascinated, but...
You look interested, but you also look confused.
Well, just because this whole story to begin with is confusing.
True.
And strange. So should we get into the actual story now?
Yeah. I kind of jumped around to, like, all my fun out-of-game points.
Yeah.
That I was going to go over, but I just got really excited.
Right.
Okay, so let's discuss where the game is. So the game is on the Maw.
The Maw. Now, here's my question, because it appears as if it doesn't begin on the Maw.
Okay.
To me, it appears as if it begins somewhere else, and then there's a boat that takes you to the Maw, and then you're on the Maw.
Okay.
That's how I interpreted the whole story.
Okay.
But again, this whole game is open to interpretation.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of it. There's no language.
There are no words.
Right.
It doesn't tell you anything. You kind of go through this experience, and the visuals kind of tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes it really fascinating. So
yeah.
Going in and just watching it without knowing anything about it, you're piecing shit together.
Right.
In a very strange manner.
It's all mishmash.
It's very mishmash.
So, well, regardless, the Maw is out at sea.
Right.
Everyone can agree to that. And you feel that in the gameplay because you see the screen kind of dipping and flowing the way you would be on a boat.
And that's why I feel like there's a segment of it that does take place on a boat.
Okay.
But then eventually, like, the Maw is kind of like a lighthouse, Alcatraz-y kind of a situation. Outpost, like out in the middle of the ocean, almost like Azkaban prison too. It's just...
This thing, the lighthouse in BioShock, that's just out by itself.
Yeah, lighthouse in BioShock, it's just out by itself. But it's hard to tell if it's a prison colony, if it's a place where the wealthy go to indulge. We'll get into it.
Yeah, and all of those things he said are valid.
Yeah, right? Like, it's very open to interpretation.
Yeah, so the Maw is the central location of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you start in the depths of the Maw underwater, because you see her, like, climbing out from the bottom and up into the front in the game. But, open interpretation, again, it's fucking wild.
Yeah.
So... the first thing you see in-game is kind of a dreamlike sequence of a geisha woman. She's tall, she's thin, she has a white geisha mask.
Yeah, but it's a very plain mask. It's just like eyes, nose, mouth. But
no adornments.
Nothing like that, but it's, it's a very pretty face.
Yeah, and she's, again, very thin. She has this really beautiful traditional kimono and a beautiful traditional updo. And she's staring you down and she's fucking mad.
Right.
And you wake up, presumably you are 6. Now, 6 is... How tall would you say she is?
It's hard to tell. Perspective in this game is very strange. I think it's supposed to convey this is a small child.
Right.
And how large the world seems to a small child.
Yeah, I agree that I think it's in place of, like, a metaphor.
So, while everything she interacts with can be either tiny in her size, and then there's giants.
Right.
I guess you would call those adults. And to a child, that's what an adult is. They're huge. They're gigantic. They're overbearing. And their world is their size. And her world is her size. So she almost seems like she could be mouse-sized.
Yeah.
However, there's things like stairs that she climbs with ease. Because that is something a child could do regardless of being in an adult world.
Totally. And to touch on that, there's this kind of sequence where you see her next to a mouse, or a mouse will run by her, and she's basically the same length and size of a mouse. So,
yeah.
In that makes sense. I do believe that it is kind of the metaphor of being a child, and the notion of little nightmares of her being tiny, especially, I feel like that resonates there. She's adorable.
Definitely supposed to be a child, but really just in a raincoat.
Yeah. Her name is 6. We never find out why. Again, no language, no dialogue, no audio files, no notes you can find.
No, there's nothing like that.
Well, there kind of is one note you can find.
But you can't read it.
Right.
Which again leads to you believing this is a child.
Yeah, she might be illiterate. She might just not care to look through other people's shit. But 6 wakes up. And she is here to fuck shit up and escape.
Yes.
She is on a mission. She's scared and she's hungry.
She's scared and hungry and very much alone. Because one of the first things that 6 sees is a pair of legs dangling over a chair.
Which is such horrific imagery to have.
To open the game.
Like, you've moved maybe 1 or 2 screens away from these starting spawn point, and there are limp legs hanging from a ceiling. You don't see the rest of the body.
You don't see the rest of the body, and you're tiny next to, again, and emphasizing just how little this character is in comparison to the world she's facing.
Yeah. And next to that body, there is an envelope that you can't open.
You can't open it, but you can
such
see
a bummer.
that it's there.
Oh, it's so creepy.
It's just so very clearly a suicide. Now, do you want to wait to interpret till later?
Spoiler alert.
I guess.
No. I mean, I think we can drop notes and build on them here.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about the body being her dad?
I feel it's her dad.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I feel that it's her dad. I feel that there was an escape situation that occurred between her and her dad.
Okay.
Or she escaped to go to her dad and discovered him dead and now is realizing she's on her own.
Okay.
But I feel like one way or the other, she was alone, was with her dad, dad's dead now she's alone again.
Yeah. That's a popular theory as well. A lot of people have speculated that's her father.
Which is why I feel like it takes place away from the maw. I feel like she had escaped the maw at some point, either with her dad or went to her dad, finds herself alone, and now the only other thing she knows is the maw, so she has to sneak back.
Okay, I like that. So they're kind of on the land and they get caught and he's put in a situation where this happens.
Right.
And I do feel it's a suicide. I don't feel it's a murder because he's able to leave a note.
Right.
So
I feel it's definitely a suicide.
Yeah.
And that's why it's either she got there and he was dead, or they were together, he felt hopeless and killed himself because she's hungry to begin with.
Right.
Like from the very outset.
Yeah.
So let's go a little bit further in.
Okay, so she's hungry, and we know she's hungry because the music shifts to feeling a little more strenuous. It feels more stressful, and she's gripping her stomach and kind of keeling over, like she's so
just
hungry
walking.
she could puke. Yeah. She moves slower. She's she just looked real sad. We never see her face, so I'm obviously just speculating on
right, but
how
she's
she
gripping
looked.
her stomach. She's bending over. She's the screen like flashes a little bit, you know.
Yeah. Kind of where we are in the maw, she's in a place where there's a lot of pipes and tubes and grates and boxes, so it might be a lower level storage area. Right. Is kind of what I was getting at. So she's walking through, and there's a wall that's like barred, and it looks like there's kind of a food area through the bars, and
right, like there was a cafeteria on the other side of the bars.
Yeah.
Like it almost seemed like a prison for children.
Right. And someone on the other side of the bars throws her like a piece of bread or a piece of food or something. We can't really tell what it is, but we can kind of tell who it is.
Who?
Oh, it's speculated to be the runaway kid that throws her first piece of food.
Oh, okay. Now the runaway kid is from the DLC.
Right.
Okay. So, okay, I didn't realize that was speculated to be the first person to throw food. That's fascinating considering.
It's the same silhouette when you look at their head shapes.
Okay.
And he comes back later.
That's the weird thing about the DLC is that there's 3 episodes of DLC and they're all about Runaway Kid and not about Six, even though Six is the main character of the main game. So you almost have these 2 main characters for this series.
And Six is alluded to in the DLC, and obviously with this piece, Runaway Kid is alluded to in the main game.
Right. It's fascinating. Okay.
Yeah. So he throws her a little bit of food. She eats it super quickly, and then she's fine again. And she's full power. You can run. You can do whatever you need to do. As a note, the only thing that Six has on her person, aside from her raincoat, is a lighter.
Right. It's a Zippo lighter, too. So it's like one that you just have to light and it keeps going.
Do you think that's something her dad might have given her?
Possibly, yeah. Very much so.
That feels like a good parent-to-child gift.
It was right around here where I really started to get my first Holocaust vibes.
Oh.
I really thought this game was about the Holocaust at the beginning.
Okay.
Which is why I say my interpretation has changed going forward. But yeah, I really thought this was a Holocaust-like parallel.
Because of the starvation aspect of it?
The starvation of it, the running, and the characters that come later. So we've got the let's get into the janitor character that's coming up here anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this janitor character in these, again, he reminded me of, like, at Day of the Dead celebrations, those big puppets with the big arms that they
Sometimes they're parade floats.
Yeah, they're the big parade floats and stuff. So they have the big, like, multi-person puppets. It's got the really long arms and a big oversized head.
They're usually paper mache and kind of
paper
lumpy.
Mache, yeah, and they have, like, really squat bodies. So that was, like, the kind of vibe that I got from this creature. Now, apparently it's blind. Is the idea.
There's bandages all around his head. Mm-hmm. And he has a little hat on top of his head.
Right, and he's blind, and he just responds to sound, so it's a very stealthy creep around the corner kind of stuff that you gotta avoid him. And he's got these long, I guess people call them noodle arms in the lore. And they're just super long. They're way too long for his body. But again, to a child, that's just like this grasping nature of this character.
Right. And he's constantly feeling around on the ground for her. If you make a noise, he'll shuffle over and feel around the ground everywhere you are. So if you're hiding, you have to be very hidden, weird corners and things. He's super fucking creepy.
And again, I'm thinking like Nazi Gestapo kind of stuff going on when the first time I'm going through the game.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like, okay, so that's like the whole allegory they're going for here. Then they get into this room of shoes, which is
pure,
as you found out later, is an absolute allegory to the Holocaust.
It's
what
so
happened
horrifying.
There?
So during the Holocaust, they would slaughter all these people during the genocide, and they didn't know what to do with their clothes, so they ended up with mountains of shoes,
just tons and tons of shoes, and like we saw the pictures.
It's fucking horrifying,
right? And it's just all shoes, and so Six ends up in this like sea of shoes at one point, even
an endless sea of shoes,
and like has to dig her way out of all these shoes. So that's, to me, I'm just watching this thinking like,
holy shit,
my god, like, did somebody live through this? That was my whole thing. Like, is this somebody's story that they're, like, really trying to tell in a unique and creative way?
Yeah, I mean, this was built by people in Sweden, so there's people in Europe that...
I mean, may have
a lot of people escaped to Sweden, didn't they?
Horror stories from their grandparents, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And grew up with this imagery and saying, okay, this is what happened just over there.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck.
Crazy.
Yeah,
but using this maw as an allegory for it, like, okay, so let's keep going with this. So
yeah, to comment on that piece of the allegory as well, at one point, Six goes up to a mousetrap. She's getting the hunger pains again.
Right.
There's a piece of cheese in the mousetrap, and she picks the cheese up. She gets trapped, and Long Arms has her in a cage, which that also works in your piece right there.
Right.
It's fucking horrifying, and she is in a box next to a friend of ours, who we'll talk about later.
Right. You don't realize it at the time yet, but
yeah. So she's captured by Long Arms. She's able to escape, and she kind of goes through this weird holding area, I'd want to say, that's kind of abandoned at this point. There's not a lot of things in it, but there's a nursery area and there's a playground area clearly meant for children.
Yeah, but it's all completely and totally abandoned. Kind of like in Portal 2 when you go through the science fair section.
Yeah!
Where it's like you see all the kids' potatoes, and then you get the very end, the one potato was like super grown and stuff.
Fucked shit up.
Right.
Yeah. So Long Arms seems to be in charge of this child
nursery
overseeing area
thing. Yeah,
because it's all in the same area where we see that cafeteria where someone throws bread through the bars, and we see a full nursery that has kind of where you see is it an ICU when you give birth and there's like that room full of babies?
Well, no, an ICU, that's the intensive care unit.
Okay, it's not the infant care unit?
No.
Damn it.
No, but I get what you're saying, where the dads all look through the glass and stuff, and like, that's my kid
that
over
one's
there.
Probably mine.
Yeah, the babies have to socialize or something, right?
It just sounds like they found a room full of, like, freshly screaming diarrhea babies.
Yeah, that's basically what it is.
It's a smelly room.
Okay.
So there's a smelly room.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a room full of shoes. There's kind of a playground area where there's like a seesaw and a mini merry-go-round.
Right. But again, abandoned and probably not used in a while.
It's super dirty. It's super dark. The whole game is kind of dirty and dark. Like, it's very dusty.
Yeah, this is not an uplifting story.
No! If you haven't caught on, this isn't like a feel-good game.
No.
You're not going to get the Night in the Woods vibes where you go, I should call my best friend from high school. This is like, I should donate money to a cause. Fuck. Holy shit. So you go through this area and Long Arms chases you basically through every room. You're hiding from him. You're going through pipes and things to avoid him.
Right. And it's the type of hiding that you're doing. So you remember how you said that she's like the size of a mouse. She's like a rat. That was the way the Nazis described the Jews in a lot of times, is that they were rats.
Jesus Christ.
And so that's like why, again, I was getting that whole like Holocaust allegory going, because like she's that size. She's hiding in like tight corners. She's not
eating out of a mousetrap, literally.
She's not hiding in a closet. She's hiding under the floorboards. You know, that's the kind of stuff she's doing. So again, it's just throughout this whole game, you're getting this strong vibe of the Holocaust.
I don't think I know enough about the Holocaust because this is all like blowing my fucking mind. And where can I donate money?
As we learned last week, I used to fall asleep watching, what was that movie?
Inglourious Bastards. Your fucking lullaby.
Right.
For Quentin Tarantino, you lunatic. Maybe it is just ingrained in you. There's a weird sense of humanity in it, and I'm curious what you think of it, because at one point, Six goes into a room where she's chased by Daddy Long Arms, and it's a toy room, but it's like broken, fucked up toys. Do you think that's where they're mending them, or do you think that's where they get taken away?
Oh, that's where they get taken away.
Oh, no.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely where it gets taken away. This place is not meant for children to be happy. This is a place where children are meant to be raised. You know, I hate to reference this movie because it's not a good movie, but Attack of the Clones, where they're building the clone army with all the children. It's very military.
Never seen that.
Imagine like a dirty, disgusting version of that, where you're just raising children that you know you're going to send to slaughter, essentially.
Farmed children.
Farmed children, yeah.
That's it.
And yet but like it's as if that supply of children has run out.
That's super creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely does feel like the children have waned down.
Because of all the shoes, especially, it's a sign that there's already been
multitudes of children.
A lot of dead kids.
Yeah, it's super creepy. And it is so disarming that it's empty. Mm-hmm. It's weird to see an empty playground, you know, if you drive by at night and you're like, oh, that's spooky now at night when there's no one there, but it's fine during the day. But it definitely feels like a park that was abandoned. There are, like I said, there's like a seesaw and a merry-go-round. Mm-hmm. So I feel like they put in some fixtures to be like, there you go.
There, You mean you gotta entertain the kids.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they're just gonna be screaming all the time.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
And another note is that, again, we're at the very bottom of the ship or wherever we are.
Right.
I feel we're in the maw. And it's like keeping them as buried as possible.
See, again, I don't think they're in the maw just quite yet. Where I think this is where they do the raising. They do that off-site. The maw, I feel like, is like the Vegas.
Just the surface area?
The maw is the place to be. That's where you go to. Like, this is just...
Supply chain?
Yeah, this is the supply chain here.
Okay.
Because we'll get into why there's children to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And why there's dead children.
Ugh. Anyway. So, Daddy Longarms is chasing you around. You go through a room that's full of clocks. Also super fucking creepy.
Right.
And you go through a library that's kind of ironic because he's blind.
That's true. Yeah.
I had a note of like, how does this help him? But eventually you go through kind of a more high-speed chase. And 6 turns into a badass out of nowhere. And what does she do? She cuts off his fucking arms.
Right. She runs through the door and slams the door, like, down on his arms and chops them. Now, see, I didn't get the vibe that they got chopped off. Because one of them kept flapping around. So I just felt like they were shut down on them, but, like...
Completely flattened.
Just...
At least broken.
Yeah, they're probably broken, but I don't think that he lost his arms in this situation. We don't see this character again, so...
Yeah. It's all he has.
It doesn't really matter. That is the end of that character, but...
Yeah, so there's kind of three big sections. The first big section is Daddy Longarms, once you're exploring, and it's great.
It is broken up into acts, isn't it?
It's broken into chapters, yeah, but I'm kind of classified as, like, big goals, so it's this guy, chefs, and geisha in my head.
Okay,
the way
that's fair.
I don't think that those are the exact chapter breaks. I think the chapter breaks more of what section of the map you're in, more
Yeah,
so.
the location.
Yeah, but in my head I broke it out by boss battle.
Okay.
And Longarms is really funny. You run through a door that is closed on a cage, and she's pulling apart the cage so that the door will close farther and farther on his arms. And he just knows that there's a child in here and I have to get it. So he's sticking his arms through the door, and it's like the Indiana Jones hat scene, but gone wrong. It's
right.
Especially you feel really good for her. You're like, yes, bitch, yes.
Right, get it.
Yeah. You are tiny, you fix shit, and you got him to leave you alone.
Yeah.
That does leave you very hungry, though.
Extremely hungry. So, should we introduce some of the side characters?
Yeah.
Okay. So, throughout the game, you're encountering these little creatures. I guess we're calling them gnomes.
The gnomes.
And they look a little racist.
Yep. They are completely white and pointy on the top.
Yeah, they look like basically creatures wearing little white hoods.
Yeah, pointy white hood.
They don't have eyeballs or eye slits or anything like that. They're almost like mushroom people, too.
Yeah, they have little stubby feet and then like kind of a point.
If a mushroom had a pointy top instead of a rounded top.
Like a dunce hat mushroom?
Yeah, like a dunce hat mushroom. So, they're a little bit racist looking and stuff, but you encounter them, and every time you get to them, they just run away. They're NPCs.
They're real nervous.
I think you can pick them up and throw them at things every once in a while.
Yeah.
You can use them to distract the long arm noodle guy. They're not super helpful, and again, they run away just when you encounter them anyway.
Yeah, they're very skittish. They are just a touch smaller than 6.
Yeah.
6 is just a little bit bigger than them. So 6 defeats Daddy Longarms. She runs through, she sees some gnomes, and they're like, "Ah, fuck you!" And like run away, and she sees a rat trap with an actual live rat stuck in it.
Mm-hmm.
She just killed some dude, probably.
Right.
Or at least maimed him.
Hurt him.
She's starving.
Again.
So she goes over to the live rat, wriggling around in the rat trap, and eats him.
Oh.
And this is when you go, oh.
Things are getting worse.
Oh no, baby girl, are you okay?
Yeah.
Things don't seem okay for you right now.
I mean, to be fair, she's upgrading on the food chain.
Yeah.
Now she's got some protein in her.
It was a scrap and then some cheese, and now it's a full rat.
Yeah.
Who's about her body size.
Yeah. So
she's definitely getting up there. It's so disarming when you see her eat something live because you assume she has pure intentions.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm not demonizing meat eating at all, we had steak for dinner tonight. We went to like a steakhouse.
Right.
And I have my own feelings about vegans, whatever. It's so disarming to see someone eat a live creature that is trapped and helpless.
Right.
It's fucking creepy.
No, it totally is.
It's super
Especially
scary.
when it's a small child.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking of like homelessness, and this is something this is where my theories started to change. Like,
okay.
Started to change a
lot
little bit.
Started to change with this moment.
In these moments here, where I started to think, okay, this might not necessarily have to be the story of somebody who was a part of the Holocaust, but maybe the story of somebody who was homeless.
A survivor story.
A survivor story of some kind, where you're orphaned and homeless, and what you have to do to survive in those kind of conditions, and kind of the horrible places that you find yourself ending up in.
Yeah.
Simply because you have no other choices.
Ugh. So sad.
But again, all my theories change constantly throughout this game.
I have rotating theories that ebb and flow with this game. It's pretty wild, and I think for me, this felt like just a character shift of she's more ruthless.
Okay.
Because it's kind of after her first big break. Like,
see, I saw it as she's more desperate.
Okay. So I thought she was being a badass, and you were like, this poor girl's in such a tough time right now.
No, I'm going on the complete opposite.
And we could both be right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unfortunately, those two things can happen simultaneously.
They really
she's
can.
Like, fuck it, everything's awful. I'm gonna eat this live rat. Fuck this
and
boat.
And I'm thinking like, everything's awful. I have to eat this live rat.
Yeah. I came out of more dick slinging than you did. Because I had a little more faith in Six as like a badass heroine, but...
And I have more faith in Six as being just like
this
a good person who has no other choice.
I mean, I don't envy her life. Anyway, so we'll keep moving on. So, as I kind of alluded to, this next section is the cooks. The cooks are fucking hysterical.
Which I didn't realize was cooks plural until very far into it.
Okay.
I thought this was the cook one, kind of like noodle arms.
Yeah.
But you do find out later there are many
Two.
cooks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a sequence. I think I saw like 5 on screen at one point.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah, some in the backgrounds and stuff like that. But
got it.
There are a shit ton of cooks in this. Too many cooks, one might argue.
Ay. How would you describe the cook? The cook.
So, again... ugly. Remember, these adults are all ugly. They're horrific, and this one is just the ugliest.
He looks a little like the
Mayor
Dad
McCheese.
Sinclair.
Oh, I thought Mayor McCheese. Like, it looked like a Mayor McCheese helmet, but as if it was a human being.
But he's also so fat and stout.
Right. Also very fat, and I think of like... Man, why am I thinking of Attack of the Clones again? But the guy in the...
Tom's trying to get me to watch the prequels, guys. Help me.
I'm not, really. It's a terrible movie.
Save me.
I don't recommend it to anybody.
I haven't seen them.
In the cafe, there's a really big fat, like, creature guy, and he's, like, pulling up his pants as he's walking. He's all covered in grease or blood and all this stuff. But before we had gotten to the chefs, we had gotten through a room full of white bags.
Oh, God, yeah. So... to get into the chef area, Six hops on a meat hook. Mm-hmm. And there is clearly indicated why that hook exists.
Yeah, I mean, there are, I say white bags, they are white body bags. They are the size of people and the shape of people.
Some of them are smaller people.
A lot of them are the size of Six.
Which is fascinating, too, because as you transition from the play area into the kitchen, the way you get there is the way that the dead bodies get there.
Yeah.
Which
shows that the play area was the last line for these kids, where they were then killed.
Yeah, long arms took care of it and sent the meat upstairs.
So the reason why you go from a play area to a kitchen is because the kitchen is where they are going to start preparing children as food.
We've gone through this, and I feel so much more creeped out now that we're talking about it.
Right?
Because it's like the underlying pieces are coming to the
surface. We're saying it out loud.
Because we're saying it out loud, so it's real. And
it's just a video game, honey. Don't worry.
No, it's not.
No.
This is life.
This is real.
But yeah, it is interesting that the path you follow is kind of the path of where your fallen brethren would have taken.
Right.
And that does translate towards the end of the game as well. So it's not just this sequence. You truly follow the path of the dead. Mm-hmm. as a living person.
As a living person.
Not in the Coco cute way.
No.
This is the opposite of Coco.
You're gonna cry for very different reasons.
Yeah, Coco is like a feel good, maybe I should like fix things with my mom movie. I didn't. But still haven't talked. But on another horrible sad note, this is just fucking scary.
Yeah, this is like scary sad.
Yeah, so again, bodies are moved from the play area, taken care of ground via meat hook in white body bags, and there are body bag numbers to match the sea of shoes we saw earlier.
Easily.
There is a pile of meat backstock. There are some empty body bags with blood coming out of them in another pile.
Oh, there's bloody handprints and footprints and body drags like throughout the whole game.
Which also kind of indicates not all of them were ready to go to the kitchen.
Yeah.
Ugh, I'm freaking myself out.
And like there's some that like indicate like a trap door, which means like somebody was bleeding out, got to the trap door, but they weren't beyond that, so
yeah,
you don't encounter anybody living unless that's what the gnomes are like other kids that have escaped this but like are hiding in the crevices and just wasting away anyway.
Yeah, which might be why they're so extra small.
And they just all kind of blend in together to be the same creature. They're just to a child's eyes, these are all the same people anyway.
Ugh, it's so creepy.
Or it could be like the uniform of the kids while they're there. You never know.
Yeah. Ugh.
Because there's the pictures later, but we'll get into those too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of lore. Like it's so...
Yeah, there's like pictures of the gnomes in Noodle Arm's apartment.
Right.
We do see that. And so those could be a bunch of kids. You don't know.
Yeah, and he was in charge of them. He might have found some that...
Also, why did he have pictures if he was blind?
I don't know. Maybe someone was fucking with him.
So
it's like, yeah,
questions.
it's your mom. She looks great in this. Oh, it's from your wife. Yeah, she looks hot.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck you. It's those babies you murdered, you psychopath. Take it down, Noodle.
Right.
So it's super fucking creepy. We see the gnomes a little more running around the kitchen. They weren't as... There's a few downstairs, but as you get in the kitchen, you see a few more kind of running around the background.
Right, there's a whole bunch
So it may indicate that they're scavenging. This is an active kitchen. So once you walk in, you see the body bags, and the first chef you see is chopping meat, like Salt Bay.
Right. I feel like now we are at the Maw, personally.
Okay.
In terms of my like personal opinion on where
we
we're
are.
going. Yeah.
So do you think that transition is really just where we keep the murder and the blood separate, and then once you get into this, it's more of the resort of the Maw,
Yep.
and this is like the back of house area?
This is the back of house of the kitchens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tom thinks in kitchen terms a lot.
Yes, I do.
Okay, but I that makes some sense just to kind of separate the death and the bodies and stuff, because there would be so much screaming where Longlegs area is.
And especially if you're trying to cater to a certain crowd, you don't want them dealing with that.
Yeah, you don't want to hear the screaming babies.
No.
When you get veal, you don't want to see it, how fresh it is.
Right. You don't want to see them slaughter the baby calf.
It's okay when it's lobsters for some reason, but...
I know, pick out your own lobster. It'll be out here in a few minutes.
Like, that seems morbid as shit, but okay.
But some places even have like a claw game where you can play to pick up your lobster. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I've been to a few places that have that.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, it's like one of those like teddy bear claw games, and it goes down.
Will you take me to one?
And it grabs your... I think Dick's Last Resort in San Diego.
Really?
I definitely had one, yeah.
That's a chain. I want to go.
Okay.
That sounds fucking amazing, and I needed some bit of sunlight in this horribly dark game.
Yeah.
So now I'm happy.
That you can make a game out of killing a creature. Yeah, that's
Damn it, Tom! Why you gotta do this to me? What the fuck?
I just gave you some real lightness out of that one.
So you want me to cry myself to sleep tonight or not?
This game's already going to give you huge nightmares, not just little ones.
It's not little nightmares. It's fucked up, horrifying nightmares.
These are massive nightmares.
So the nightmare takes us into the kitchen, where we immediately see meat being cut up. We're not talking about where the meat's from.
No.
Is a baby.
It's
baby meat.
Baby meats.
And there's a lot of stealth in this area. There's a few chefs. I feel like there's at least 2 working in the kitchen, maybe a third to cycle in and out.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of puzzles involving turning things on and sending them in other rooms.
Yeah, distracting them with like noises off in the distance.
Yeah,
and going...
they can see.
Yes.
So if you get in their
problem.
Yeah, so if you get in their eyesight, they can kind of shuffle after you, but they have their proportions are more reasonable to a regular human, where they have arms that are proportionate to their torsos.
Right. But they're still giants and massive, and
yeah,
you're tiny. Like, Six is tiny compared to them.
What is weird about their face?
Well, their face, like I said, looked like a Mary McCheese helmet, but if it was completely human. And it's also in that sense that it's a mask.
It is a fucking face mask, and not the cute Sephora way.
No.
It's someone else's face.
It's like a big rubber mask, because from time to time you can see them lift up and, like, scratch the face underneath. Which, the face underneath doesn't look any better or worse.
No, like, they're stout dudes. They're not going to be super hot from the neck up.
Right.
They're going to be fucked up under the mask.
So, again, all I can think of is metaphors if they all look alike, even though they're technically not.
It's so creepy.
Yeah. And uniforms, and again, Nazi uniforms, that kind of thing.
Ugh. There's a theory that they are beautiful under the mask, and I do not buy into that.
I refuse to believe that.
No. And I feel that they're probably maimed so horribly they have to wear the mask to appear human.
Oof.
Because when we see with long arms, something fucking horrible happened to his face as well, where he's blind.
That's true.
But we have indications that the chefs can see. But I think that maybe they've lost their nose, or their mouths have been sewn shut or something.
Well, I mean, you have to think that not everybody is so evil. That these people have to be, like, tricked into doing this in some way. You know what I mean?
Tom has a better heart than I do.
I do, but, you know, you have to believe that they've been tortured in ways themselves and forced into this.
I absolutely believe this is from torture.
Yeah.
Like, I believe that maybe they've been experimented on to push more of the Holocaust allegory there. Like, I feel that Daddy Longarms is probably an experiment.
I mean, maybe also it could just be situations of, like, yeah, they signed up at first, like, yeah, I can cook human meat. And then after killing their 400th baby, they're just like, this is really starting to get to me. I want to quit. And she's like, oh, you want to quit, do you? Sorry, I'm saying she. Spoiler alert for later. But you want to quit, do you? And then, you know, fucks with them. And it gets to the point where they all have to just...
Tell me you quit again, and she rips their tongue out.
Yeah, kind of shit.
Fucked up shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so... Again, just to reference it so everyone's aware, there is a theory that they're beautiful and they're hiding it to appear ugly. I think that's
they're
bullshit.
More deformed.
Yeah, I think that that's the best case scenario, and they are forced to keep the faces on so they look as reasonable as possible, but they're fucked up as shit.
And even as reasonable possible is hideous.
Yeah. And I think that they've probably been fucked with in some way that requires cooking. The way Longarms loses his eyesight even though he's supposed to watch the children.
Mm-hmm.
Which... There's some horrible, horrible irony there.
Right.
Maybe they've had their mouths sewn shut or their tongues ripped out or something, and they have to cook for everyone.
Right.
I think it's morbid as fuck.
I mean, it's... Ugh. This whole thing is...
This whole thing is really bad.
So, obviously, from the kitchen, you have to go into the restaurant.
The dining room.
And my God. This was the most disgusting, horrific thing I've seen in a long time.
There are sequences in Spirited Away that were very reminiscent of this. Have you seen Spirited Away?
I haven't seen Spirited Away. What it reminded me of was, I know you haven't seen... I mean,
if you bring up another fucking prequel...
No, it's not another fucking prequel. But it's... now, the TV series is running right now, and this is far down the road for the TV series, but in the comic book series Preacher, there's a character they call the Sausage Guy. Okay. And it reminds me of that guy, and just... Think of just sausages and meats everywhere.
Based on the fact that you said this looks like someone you think is called the Sausage Guy, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So
based on that description alone, I'm in.
Reminds me of him in a lot of ways, but if that guy was, like, grotesquely fat.
Yeah. So, they are circles?
Well, first we have to go into the restaurant.
Right.
Which Six does, and as Six is going into the restaurant, she's following this line of fat, grotesque human creatures.
And we see them boarding at one point. We see them kind of filing in. The dining room itself feels a little traditional Japanese, similar to the Lady the Geisha that I've talked about earlier, where there's...
This is the first time we really see the geisha, though, too.
That's right! We do see her for the first time.
So Six sees the geisha, and she's, like, standing on a balcony overlooking everybody filing into her restaurant.
Yeah. And again, the restaurant is very Japanese themed. There's those paper sliding doors, kind of the lower tables. Looks like you might sit on the floor kind of thing.
Right.
So it feels a little traditional. Like if you go to a geisha house and you have like do the tea ceremonies and stuff. From my very limited knowledge of what the geisha experience is, it's similar.
Right.
And again, I'm wrong.
You're probably very wrong.
Yeah. But there is a scene in Spirited Away where it's a very similar dining room where it's low, it's traditional, there's the paper things, and people are gorging themselves and then they turn into pigs.
Oh.
While they're gorging themselves.
Okay.
There's like a magical spell that's broken, and the girl that gets spirited away is the only one that can kind of fix everything. Her parents turn into pigs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she and her parents are like moving across the country. They stop in this little town and they're eating, and a spell breaks, and as her parents are gorging themselves on all this food, they turn into pigs, and she has to kind of go around and fix shit.
Wow.
And there's a lot of mythology, and the movie's fucking amazing.
Okay.
I love those movies.
I've always heard good things.
Oh, wonderful. And I think that was distributed by Disney, so it got a really wide release.
Studio Ghibli, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think Disney handled some publishing and distribution.
A lot of distribution, yeah.
Yes, it's done incredibly well, but it reminds me a lot of that, where you just straight up see people gorging themselves, and it's taking the arms and shoving food into their mouths.
And as Six, you're running both on the ground, and like as you run on the ground, like one person will see you, and they'll dive to the floor and like crawl after you.
It's so scary.
And if they catch Six, they'll fucking just swallow her whole.
Yeah.
Shove her right in their mouth. Like, these people have plates of just sausages and meats, and they're just grabbing it by the fistful.
It just looks
and
oily.
Like shoving it in their mouths. Men and women, they're all fat. They're all disgusting. Again, it's that very Rugrats, like, ugly style of animation, too.
Yeah.
Which, can we also just say, the graphics in this game.
Oh, they're ugly but fucking beautiful.
Mind-blowingly beautiful. Like, the detail is so precise. And for a game that's shrouded in so much darkness.
You can see dust particles floating in the air.
In the air.
While you're moving.
And just, like, the folds in fabrics and things. It's a very beautiful, beautiful graphics game. But they use that beauty to convey so much ugliness.
Mm-hmm. It's just their masteries of shadow and depth, and the color palette is limited, yes, but it still feels so lively and incredible. It's absolutely stunning.
Every single sequence has so much movement and so much going on too. It's really well done. But then there's other segments where Six has to run across the fucking table while all these people are gorging on it, and they're like reaching out and trying to grab at her and everything, and it's just I try to think of the horrors that inspired this kind of a story, you know, and it's just where that comes from.
Right. It's so beautiful. I love it.
So from the restaurant, that then takes us to kind of our final confrontation.
Yeah, so there's a lot of hiding and seeking and kind of working your way through elevators and doing trapdoors and getting keys and things like that. You do kind of run through the room of guests a few times, and every time they see you, they chase after you. We see a chef at one point. He's hiding out there. Then something that really shows how hungry Six is happens.
That's right.
And that's right before the final showdown. So we gotta
get through that.
We're
first.
there.
So Six is wandering and again gets her hunger pains going and is healing over and sees a hot dog, like a sausage sitting on the floor there, and one of the gnomes runs over and grabs the sausage and takes it over to.
Yeah, the gnome I feel is clearly trying to feed Six.
Yeah.
Six is a good distance away. She's grabbing her stomach and she looks like she's about to just fall over dead.
Right. And so the gnome brings the sausage over to Six, and Six eats the gnome.
Drops the sausage and starts with the gnome's face and fucking eats the gnome.
Yeah.
How did that work into your plotting of the story?
That's how hungry she was.
You're like, this poor girl.
Yeah. It was just that, again, it's if I'm going with the theory that the gnomes are other children, like, she was, again, forced to be so hungry that she had to resort to cannibalism at some point.
How do you feel about the fact that he tried to feed her a normal food?
Well, is it a normal food, though?
Okay. Could have been a finger?
No, but I mean, it's a sausage, but we know what that sausage is made out of.
And she wanted hers fresh?
I guess. Or she saw that as less than human because it was a gnome.
Ah.
So, like, while She knows what the sausage is. She doesn't quite know what the gnome is.
And you never want to know how the sausage is made.
But she knows what.
But she knows what the sausage is.
Yeah, she knows.
She ran through that shit earlier.
And she knows that she doesn't want that. So I felt like the gnome was a better option than the sausage for her.
It's so horrifying when that happens.
And it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, there are compilations on YouTube of streamers reacting to that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone's just like, holy shit.
This got dark.
This got real fucking dark.
Yeah.
I know we just ate a live rat, but we're almost forgiving that. Now we're just horrified by this girl. That's rad.
So, final confrontation.
You've made it from the depths of the maw or the maw holding cell, whatever.
Wherever.
You are at the top of the maw. It's clear that the geisha keeps her shit up at the top of the boat. We always see her. We are looking down, looking up at her.
Yeah.
She appears on a balcony.
She's above everybody else in every way.
And that's a big part of her character. So the geisha, again, tall, beautiful, steaming in her silhouette, traditional Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
And she moves like she's gliding.
Right. She has a lot of magic to her.
Yeah.
If she catches you, it's very much like lifts you up with her spell and makes you evaporate kind of shit. But it's, again, I keep trying to go for the metaphor with that. But I can't with this. This is where everything kind of changed again for me.
You don't see her as like a Führer, Hail Geisha?
I literally lost all of my...
Whatever thread this was, never mind.
No, I lost all of the whole Holocaust feelings with this sequence.
Okay.
Now what I felt was this girl was brought up in a brothel, essentially. Six was. And she was kind of being raised to be a sex worker, even as a child. And this is her confronting the madam.
Her abuser.
Her abuser kind of a thing. And so now this whole meat and for slaughter kind of thing, that whole feeling changed here into giving kids away for sex is doing the same as cannibalizing them.
Okay, so that metaphor just adjusted into a childhood trauma thing and overcoming abuse and
escaping like sex slavery essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where with the whole geisha thing everything changed for me.
Yeah, I mean it's clear that the maw is built on providing vices to people,
to the rich and the greedy, and that's why they come across so fat and so gross.
Yeah, like
but so opulent.
Their big vice is gluttony, obviously, like
right.
But it could easily be translated into lust, and maybe there's more than one maw or more than one area of the maw. Maybe there is one that's all the lust area. Maybe there's one where you kill kids and it's wrath, and you hunt the world's greatest game or whatever.
Right. Or you raise them to the point where they're just outside of playing on seesaws, and then you can just do what you want with them.
Yeah, and then it's just, here's a body for whatever you need, and
right.
if you kill it, we'll cook it.
So the way Six can defeat the geisha is she finds a mirror, and it's really just reflecting her own image back at her.
Which is, as someone with mommy issues... Yo.
Right? Well, again, and this is why I thought that, because then that would just, to me, say that the geisha was raised in a similar situation, and what she's doing is perpetuating this cycle of abuse onto other people, and by reflecting the mirror is really just saying, like, look what you're fucking doing to people. Like, you're making you.
You're a fucking monster.
And you wear a mask, clearly, so you really must hate the way you look. And that, that whole thing.
Yeah, so, the way you defeat the geisha, you end up running into her personal bedroom and her personal closet. You're getting keys, you're smashing things. You find the one... There's like 2 unbroken mirrors in the game. One you do have to break to get into another room.
That's right.
So you are forced to break one mirror. And then there's one that's unbroken, which is the only tool you can use to defeat the geisha. You don't use your lighter. And she's floating around you. She's coming to grab you and scare you and presumably eat you. Take your soul,
destroy
break you.
Do whatever it is she does.
Yeah, but I think
which we do find out later what she does.
Yeah, it's fucked. You hold the mirror up to her like 4 or 5 times, and eventually the sight of herself knocks her out so bad that she's just laying on the ground in pain.
Right.
Almost in the same way that we see Six when she's hungry. Six comes up to her, reasonably full power, comes up to her fucking face, and goes to town eating her. That's
right. Just fucking eats the geisha.
And she doesn't get bigger. She doesn't buff out or anything. She just fucking eats her face.
Yep.
Like a badass bitch. I love Six. I'm gonna get a giant yellow raincoat.
I mean, gives her a taste of her own medicine at the end.
Yeah, and as we see it, we see kind of this black particle stuff floating around. It's very whimsical, and that's kind of meant to represent the soul or the spirit of the person being absorbed by Six at this point.
Right.
Because then immediately after, we get a sequence of Six walking through the dining room. And as people are looking at her and starting to lunge towards her, their soul, the black shit comes out of their bodies and is absorbed by Six.
Right.
And they just drop fucking dead.
And they all drop dead.
Yeah. And she doesn't have to lift a finger. She's looking ahead. She's like, fuck this shit, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
And people are just dying left and right.
Yeah,
at
it's
her
like
hand.
absorbing their souls.
Yeah.
And see, I took that, again, in terms of interpretation, like, they no longer have control of her.
Yeah, she's taken her power back.
She's taken her power back entirely. And she's taken it away from them. Like, she's no longer the victim here.
She stopped her mom. She can stop anything in the world.
Right.
And there's, spoiler alert, there's a lot of theory that the geisha is Six's mom.
Is Six's mom, which, again, now hearing what some of, like, the ideas behind... And also, the DLC clears up a few things.
Right.
It does clear up a few things in terms of story. So now I do know what, like, the story's about and all that stuff. But again, I feel like there's still allegories to be told along that side.
No, it's purposely vague to kind of fit a few narratives and shine light on different stories.
Yeah, and I think I think at the end of the day, it's about trauma and about overcoming that trauma and not seeing yourself as the victim anymore and taking your power back from that.
Totally. And on a great note, actually, the last sequence we see is Six walking up and out of the maw into the light.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get an image of the maw. It's kind of a big lighthouse on an island in the water by itself thing.
Right.
And we hear a boat coming in.
Oh, okay.
We hear like the toot toot.
Which just means another boat of tourists.
Yeah.
But a
She's
way
not
off.
afraid of that shit.
But a way off.
Six don't give a fuck.
Yeah, she doesn't have... Yeah, she's not afraid anymore. So, let's get into the DLC real quick, because at least with the DLC, it does clear up some things, but it's quick.
It is very quick.
It's a lot quicker.
So we follow a boy this time who's just a touch bigger than Six.
Right.
Who's presumably named the Runaway Kid.
The Runaway Kid.
And he's also wakes up in the maw.
Mm-hmm.
And he interacts with a lot of the same people that we see.
A whole bunch of the same people. So we realize that it's concurrent because he does run into the noodle arm guy and he still has arms.
Right.
And
as stated, he's presumably the person that gives Six the piece of bread.
The piece of bread.
The first thing she eats.
Right.
And speaking of things she eats.
So
the Runaway Kid interacts with a lot of people. He escapes long arms, and he does have an interaction with the geisha.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we see what happens when the geisha can't be stopped.
Right. But that's a little bit of ways down the road.
I got excited.
You really did. You jumped the gun on that.
I'm really
that's
excited.
DLC number 3.
I know.
We're on number 1 here.
Okay.
So he gets captured by the noodle arms.
Yeah.
And gets put in a cage, and we do see them together in the same like caged area from before when he trapped Six.
That's right.
Yeah. See,
it's the same
remember
scene.
That. It's the exact same scene from that. So that's how we finally do realize, like, okay, this story is happening alongside of Six's story the whole time.
Yeah. So this is again the first time Six eats, and she gets out of the cheese, out of the mousetrap. She gets trapped in a box, and that's how Noodly gets her.
Right.
And she gets out.
So that's that story. And then the next story
is the water one?
The water one. There's a lot of swimming involved.
Yeah, there's parts where you have to kind of flood and unflood areas of the ship.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. And again, does like just some loose connecting to Six's story. It's nothing major on that one.
Yeah, he ends up in the kitchen. He gets a bunch of gnomes to put coal in a furnace so he can escape a certain area. And the whole point is that one's apparently very difficult just in terms of its mobility and the way you can see things.
People were saying it made them really angry, this one.
The puzzle solving's a little trickier. So that one's more just relationship building with the gnomes.
Right. You
get to control a few. Once you capture them, you can be like, you guys do this. And
again, these ones are short. There's not a whole lot of story. But the third one is where like the meat of the stuff comes out.
Yeah. So, again, first one, noodles. Second one, gnomes. Third one, so what I jumped to was where he interacts with the geisha.
Right.
So he ends up in her kind of private area and quarters, kind of where Six ends up towards the end of her game. He has to kind of move things around, and when he finds the geisha, she's like crying and looking at herself in a broken mirror.
In a mirror.
Which is super fucked up to run into. And she's like got a fucked up face.
Completely.
Can, like,
the mask is
see.
not on, but we can see that this is an ugly ass woman.
Yeah, and like something horrible happened. It's not just like her nose is broken or anything.
Right, it's like droopy.
Yeah, like shit went horrible.
Right.
And he's like, oh no.
And she sees that he saw what she really looks like.
And she can't have that shit.
No.
So what does she do?
She turns him into a gnome.
She uses her fucking Vader powers.
Right, her Darth Vader
lifts
powers.
him up, and he becomes a gnome. And I think it cuts, and then we cut back to him as a gnome.
Mm-hmm. And he's...
I'm gonna cry!
I know. So the gnome is next scene in the kitchen, and he sees a hot dog or a sausage on the ground. And he goes over to it, and it pans over and shows Six, and then it's over. Because he ends up being...
The gnome she ate.
The gnome that she ate. So the first person to feeds her one last time.
Before she fucks everything up.
Yeah.
Which, like, it's so clever to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just about as clever as, like, the Final Destination 5 twist.
Right.
Which, is, like, my favorite.
It's one of your favorite twists of all time.
So good. Where it's hinted at and it's alluded to, like, yeah, there's reasonably concurrent parts of this DLC. And, like, we're not specific about time with either storyline.
No.
And especially with the DLC where it's cut a lot.
And you have, like, time periods are waiting between each one.
Yeah, it's episodic, so you can kind of wake up in different places. It's not like Six's campaign where you run through it and you can do it in an afternoon. It's very separate, and just there's so much horrible, like, irony and parallels that tie you into each other's stories, and you really feel supportive of her, and then you die.
And then
when she eats you.
Yeah.
And, like, her last act of being, like, what I felt was her saying, fuck everything. Fuck politeness. Fuck you. Fuck this. Fuck that. I'm gonna eat every motherfucker in here.
Right.
I'm gonna burn down the boat. You know how much of a bad bitch you have to be to burn a boat down? 6 level.
6. And again, this is just a small child as far as we know.
Tiny baby.
Yeah.
She could be 6.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know.
That might be her age.
Yeah, and it's just the last thing that happens to poor runaway kid is he's turned into a gnome. The people that he even saw below him. And he's like, all right, I guess this is my life now. Oh, a hot dog. Oh, she needs help. I remember her from earlier.
And
let me bring you this hot dog.
Yeah.
And she goes for the guttural. Ugh, it's wild.
Darkness.
It is pure darkness. And that's where his story ends, obviously.
Right.
And it's always hard when you play as a character and then see them die.
It is.
And
it's so painful. And there's so many games that do it to you, and you're just like, oh.
And I know it's DLC, so it can be a very contained story. Right. Which is smart to kind of leave main game open-ended, but this feels so parallel and so entwined with Six's story that it's still difficult to say goodbye.
It is, especially because, like I said, all the DLC dealt with this side character that you don't really even see in the main game.
Yeah, you catch glimpses.
So you almost develop as close of a relationship with Runaway Kid as you do with Six.
Yeah, which is just it's so good.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's going to be in the TV series or not, but he's available. So that's kind of the big main story. There are also 4 comic books that were published.
What the fuck? I didn't know about this.
There's more lore. They released 2 as like a hardcover set. They haven't released the other 2 yet, but there is actual other content. Apparently 6 meets up with more kids. I didn't get my hands on them, but there are other children that she interacts with. I don't know if it's in the mall or the real world.
That seems like they're doing too much now.
Yeah. I don't know if they're just
I think the mystery of the lore kind of adds to the lore.
Yeah, and if we are getting a full TV series, like, that's gonna write its own lore.
Yeah.
Like, assuming it's canonical, which it probably will be, because
why not?
Yeah, like, the world's not that big and expansive that we need non-canonical stories at this point. It's not Star Wars where we need to have like big Luke storylines and shit like that, or it's okay.
If it's no Luke, it's not Star Wars.
Yeah, like, that's fine. He has a starring credit in episode 9.
That's what I heard.
Hamill and Carrie Fisher both do.
I mean, we have seen plenty of Force ghosts, so
ghosts.
Yeah. Because Force Ghost ruined Star Wars in the second one.
So this was our Star Wars episode, everyone.
Because everybody knows that anything that happens in any Star Wars ruins the series, so...
Go see a Star Wars.
Just go see one.
Yeah, go see one. Go cry. Go, I guess, call your mom if you have that kind of relationship.
Yeah.
I don't, but... I don't know if this empowered me or made me sad.
I'm sorry.
How do you feel about it?
You know, it's the darkest game I think I've seen in a while. And, like, I'm talking, like, we've seen murder games before.
I'm playing through LA Noire right now.
Yeah, this is so great that you're playing through for the first time.
I know, on the Switch.
And, because it just came out on the Switch. Why did they release it on the Switch this many years later?
No idea.
It was not a success. I mean, it was an okay successful game, like a moderately successful game. And they shut down the studio that made it. I don't understand this play.
I think it's fun. And I think it's really well done. Like, I think it's pretty. And we lived in LA for years, so it actually feels pretty accurate to downtown LA.
That's really crazy, just having lived in... Like, when I played that, I hadn't lived in Los Angeles, proper yet.
But when you did Grand Theft Auto 5, we were in LA, right?
The part of Los Angeles I lived in was not mapped on LA Noire, so I was like, okay, well, I don't know this area.
I live in the DLC.
But yeah, now that I've lived in the part that LA Noire is, like, part of...
And we were right there.
I mean, okay, GTA 5, I've driven every one of those goddamn streets. IRL and in the game. Like, 100%.
Totally.
We went on a tangent.
What are you playing right now?
What am I playing right now? I'm playing through... Oh, Hello Neighbor. That game's stressing me out.
And it's, I think Hello Neighbor actually got lumped into this a little bit because it is a survival kind of horror themed game. I wouldn't necessarily call either a true horror game because, there's not jump scares. There's not...
Bullshit. Hello Neighbor is
you're right. Hello Neighbor is all jump scares.
I get my shit jump scared all the time.
I'm sorry. Maybe it's more suspense is what I would feel is a better term for both of them.
Because the music and the sound is very essential to...
You say horror, I think
Hello
Resident
Neighbor.
Evil.
Yeah, and like Silent Hill and shit like that.
Yeah, Silent Hill dogs and shit like that.
But that's not the same kind of horror.
Yeah, but I feel like this kind of came up around like a Five Nights at Freddy's, Bendy and the Ink Machine, kind of all these indie suspense horror games that kind of came out with super rich lore and straightforward gameplay, where this is puzzle solving and stealth and climbing. Platforming. And Hello Neighbor is a lot of stealth, a lot of problem solving, kind of similar... in a similar vein, but all part of this kind of new class of short form storytelling. Like, when I say short form, it's just that you can complete these in a day.
Yeah.
I mean, Hello Neighbor is a little more tricky.
Hello Neighbor more has feels like a Call of Duty Zombies feel to me, where it's a lot of building and running, and I mean, with zombies, obviously you're killing zombies the whole time. With Hello Neighbor, it's just one
creepy dude you live across the street from.
One protagonist, one antagonist, like the whole thing, but you kind of develop this whole lore through the game. I don't know. I think we'll do Hello Neighbor.
Okay.
Because
once you've played through it,
it's got enough story to it. I think that we can pull out an episode.
We pulled an episode out of this one, and you were like, "What the fuck is this?" If you made me do Leisure Suit Larry, I get some creepy shit. I love creepy shit.
You love creepy shit.
Don't love creepy shit in that way.
Right.
I like creepy shit, not creepy dudes.
Different kind of creepy. Yeah. Creepy shit, not creepy dudes.
Yup.
I like that.
So that's kind of where we're at as people right now.
Okay. Well, Goombas, I hope we give you not nightmares, but sweet dreams.
Sweet, sweet daydreams of brightly colored things and only eating food.
Yes.
That is actual food.
That is actual food, not people.
Not people. And be nice to your friends who are trying to help you, even if you want to eat them.
Yeah, just don't eat your friends.
Don't eat your friends.
And don't eat the sausage.
And don't forget to subscribe. Call to action, Tom.
Good segue, honey.
Don't forget to subscribe. If you have a game that you think is creepy with creepy dudes or creepy stuff, we'll check it out.
We might.
Our email and all of our contact information is below. Check us out. Hang out with us. Creep on us.
Please do.
But not like in a spoopy way.
And come back and hang out in the other castle.
Yeah. Have a good one.
Bye, Goombas.
Bye.